I left my practice in Cincinnati and started doing what you already know I like doing, which is traveling around the country and traveling around the world and trying to look for some universal truths of humanity. Like, what thing can we really apply that's just real about all humans? We all long for a profound human connection. It comes with pain, it comes with sorrow, it comes with misery, it comes with struggle, it comes with stress, it comes with beauty, it comes with wonder, it comes with ecstasy, it comes with miracles, it comes with love, it comes with compassion, it comes with confusion, it comes with clean paths, it comes with dirty paths, it comes with gravel roads, it comes with rocks in your face. It comes with everything. And no part of it is inherently better than any other part of it. Some are more comfortable than others, granted. I don't wish rocks in people's face. It's not my goal. But it's no better or worse. It's just a life event that comes with being here for the temporary time that we're here.
Welcome on the Joyful Mate podcast. How are you, Dr. Fred Moss?
Very good. It's great to be here. Nice to be here. I look forward to our conversation, Anthony.
I really look forward to you enlightening and empowering the listeners of the Joyful Mate podcast. You've got so much clinical experience, so much life experience to share, and plenty of wisdom around mental health. But before we get into the topic, I would love you to share your background as to how you've arrived at what you're doing today.
Okay. Well, thank you for the question. So I was born a healer. Let's just go right back to the background. I mean it. In the first second of life, I was a healer, and maybe even beforehand, probably in the consummating act, I was the healer even, I would say. And the reason is, my family was in chaos and disarray. I had two brothers older than me. One was 10 years older than me. One was 14 years older than me. And you can guess, with two young brothers back in the day and my very young parents, that there was a lot of conflict and chaos and disarray. And I was called on to be the bundle of joy that could bring, peace and unity and togetherness to that family that was in so much conflict. And so I've learned early on that communication, as I look back retro, the communication was what really worked. When I would cry, I could actually, absorb the attention of the room. When I would laugh, I would make people happy. When I was cute, I could make people, smile. When I was smart, I could impress people, all those things. And so I really learned that being communicative was what I wanted to do with my life. I don't, nothing has really, it's been like, the ongoing champion of why to live is to communicate. And communicating meaning speaking and listening, learning and teaching, like actually giving and receiving. And I went through school hoping that school would teach me how to do that. I went through school hoping that school would show me how to be a big boy like my brothers, and it didn't happen in school at all. So in school, I was told to sit down, be quiet, do what the teacher said. But that didn't stop me from trying to communicate. I was a very loud elementary student. There's no teacher in elementary school who ever forgot having Fred as a student, I'm sure. And then I thought, well, maybe it'll be in the later grades, maybe junior high or high school. And it got worse and then even worse again. I was like, man, this just sucks, man. And so I started skipping school. I didn't care very much about school because what a waste of time was sit there and do nothing. And I spent a lot of time being out in the streets, being not necessarily not like Bruce Springsteen streets, but like streets of, learning from real people out there. Like after school, I would put out my thumb and just hitchhike to wherever the next car took me. That was my project after school. I just say, let's go see what else is out here. Let's go. I eventually decided that I would go to where I thought they must teach about communication because it's only 40 miles away. They have really great helmets. Everybody who I know who's worth anything in the area went to that school. So I, got accepted at the University of Michigan. And, I didn't learn how to communicate at the university either. I did definitely learn how to communicate in Ann Arbor, Michigan, but not at the university. And so I got to enjoy Ann Arbor quite a bit, maybe too much. And within a year and a half, I had decided that I'd drop out. I couldn't do school anymore. It was worthless. It wasn't a good use of my time. And I took a bus across the country to learn what my life was about. And you can see I'm kind of a traveling soul at this point. I just want to go learn everything that's happening out there, especially if I'm not supposed to go there. That's where I want to go. And so to Berkeley, California, I went. I spent the summer. I did get some initiation. It was not sustainable. And my family told me there was this new technology that I had high aptitude for that I might be good at for a job. It's like, oh, whatever. You might have heard of it. It was called computers. And I was like, yeah, I can do that. Let's see. So I took the bus all the way home back to Michigan for the only computer in all of Michigan. And that was at the University of Michigan. It's like a 2-acre facility, punch cards and batch jobs and Fortran and COBOL and all that. Dude, I'm not doing that either. This is not how my life is going to go. I was fun, but I'm not doing this. So I dropped out a second time, and that was it. I promised I would never go back to school. And my mom's like, okay, no problem, but you got to get a job. Well, that kind of puts a wrench in it, right? Like, okay, let's see. So she got me some applications for civil service jobs, one for the unemployment office and one for this childcare worker job. And I took the childcare worker job because they had 3 weeks of orientation. And I knew that all I had to do was sit around in a little conference room, twiddle my thumbs, throw spitballs, and get 3 paychecks. 3 paychecks, that'll buy me a car. A car, that'll take me around the country. We're going around the country, I'll learn what my life is about. I'm in. Let's do it. I'm not making this up. I actually recall right this very minute. That's exactly why I took the job. I just want you to know. I didn't take it because I liked mental health or something. And the 4th week, my friend Paul, who later became a good, close collegial friend, he convinced me to go up to Meadowview 5. The older adolescent boys was where we were assigned. These kids were only like 5 years younger than us. They're bigger than us. They're tougher than us. They're streetier than us. They're meaner than us. They're unpredictable, they're all those things. So I was scared to death on that Monday. But I went in and clearly I survived. And by Tuesday, it was a little less scary. And Wednesday, it's slightly less scary. And, I said, yeah, I could probably hang around for another 3 weeks because then I could get a later model car. I could actually do the same thing. But I could do 3 more paychecks. So I stayed around 3 more weeks and then got a little bit better at it, got transferred to the younger adolescent boys, 12 to 14-year-olds. And now I started communicating. Now I was actually communicating. For the first time in my life, I was communicating and getting reimbursed for it. All they really wanted me to do was connect with these kids, and I could definitely do that. I took the afternoon shift. I take them on beautiful field trips all around Detroit, Greenfield Village, Silverdome, Tiger Stadium, the downtown, whatever. And we had a nice time. And so the thing I didn't like was psychiatry, actually. I liked taking care of kids. I liked, doing the nighttime job. But I hated the future of psychiatry. And I just could see that, it was going into this medication thing or this chemical restraint concept, biological psychiatry or chemical imbalance and all those things. I was like, dude, I'm not down with this. Just because a kid is up too late doesn't make him relapsing or a kid gets in a tussle with another kid. That doesn't mean that he's antisocial. It just doesn't. The future was getting colored then. And I decided I would go in as a hero. I would go back to school. I didn't want to be a childcare worker the rest of my life, although I liked the field. But go back to school, go to the top of the totem pole, make a difference. So back to school a 3rd time, and while I was working full time, I finished my undergraduate. I got lucky enough to get accepted at a great school in downtown Chicago, Northwestern University. And I got my medical degree at Northwestern University over those years, and then went through internship, and then went through residency, and then went through fellowship for child and adolescent psychiatry, and then graduated, got spat out, and now I'm a psychiatrist. Well, lots of things have happened in those years while I was learning. The world did turn in many ways. Prozac was introduced, for instance. That changed the world drastically. And now when I came out, psychiatry had actually gone more far away than I even thought it could. It was now all about chemical imbalances and all about biological psychiatry and barely about communicating. There was they dabble in it, but communicating wasn't thought to be a curative source. It was thought to be an informational gathering so you could figure out which medicine to give people. That was the purpose of communication. But I knew that communication cured, as you can hear. I knew that communication healed people. Like that's what we're doing here tonight. Why would we have a podcast if we didn't think that? And with me and you specifically, we had a communication glitch. We had to actually cut out our first effort a few weeks ago. And now we're back again, trying hard uphill to communicate together, because there's nothing richer in the world than communicating with another human being. And we all kind of know that. So I needed to be a proponent of that, even while I was being asked to do things that I was misaligned with, things like diagnose people or give people medicine. And off I went, sort of like hiding behind trees, you know, doing what they wanted me to do, not really liking it, and, calling people over, hey, communication, like that. But that gets old too, sir. It gets old. It gets old to live a double life. And so that's what I was doing. I knew what was right. I wasn't doing what was right. I knew what was wrong. And maybe I was dabbling too much into things I wasn't aligned with. And that was not a good life. It was led to massive duplicity. And then there were a couple things that happened in the middle of my career, like 2006 time, that had me consider doing something that most people thought was radical, which was I took people off medicine. I had a big practice, couple thousand patients. And I took a handful of people, the low risk people, off of their medicine, not against their will, like this is what they wanted. And just to see what happened. And they all got better. Like they got reliably, profoundly, predictably better. And most cases, they've lost their entire diagnosis that they thought they were taking meds for in the first place. It's a big finding. Big finding. What am I supposed to do with this thing? I want to shake up the world, right? I want to tell every parent, stop giving your kids meds. I want to tell every child, stop giving your parents meds. I want to tell every person, stop taking meds. Because meds perpetuate the conditions they're marketed to treat. And that's what I now had learned. But you don't want to be violent, because no one will listen to you if you're violent. Even if you feel violent, you got to find another way to communicate. Because, when we're violent, no one can even hear us. So I did some more looking, like, where's the problem here? Where's the entryway where I can be calm, where I can actually deliver this without so much wind in my sail? And what I found was that it comes not from big pharma, not from medications, not from side effects, not from doctors, not from insurance companies, not from pharmacies, not from any. That isn't where the problem is. There's no problem in those areas. It comes from all of us thinking and even knowing that there's something wrong with us mentally. Why do you go to a doctor anyways? Because you know that there's something wrong with you. That's why. So, psychiatry is the only subspecialty that if you tell somebody as a psychiatrist that they're okay, they get pissed. There's no other subspecialty in medicine where that's true. If your oncologist says you're okay, you're like, cool. Cardiologist, cool. Proctologist, cool. Gynecologist, cool. Ophthalmologist, great. Doctor of psychiatry, you're a quack. I'll go next door. I'll find somebody who knows what's wrong with me. Okay. People need to have something wrong with them. There's a real edge. There's a real advantage in some ways. There's a secondary gain. We'll talk about that later if we need to. And so the idea here was, could I help people see that maybe there's nothing wrong with them, that these diagnoses are totally made up? That they're totally made up. You get a diagnosis and you think it fits, and they don't even become a diagnosis, by the way, until you agree with them, right? If I was to call you a parakeet right now, you'd have to agree that you were a parakeet before you took it on as a diagnosis.
Absolutely.
It is in the agreement that the diagnosis gets solidified. Just because some dude in a white coat who spent way too much time in school tells you that doesn't confirm anything until you agree. So now the object was, I took most of my patients off medicine. I left my practice in Cincinnati and started doing what you already know I like doing, which is traveling around the country and traveling around the world and trying to look for some universal truths of humanity. Like, what thing can we really apply that's just real about all humans? There's not that many of them. There are some. One of them is that we all long for a profound human connection. Even amongst cave dwellers. They do too. They already tried. It didn't work. They got hurt. They had their heart broken, and now they're going to a cave so that they don't have to be faced with the impulse to get together with other humans. This is where cure happens. This is where heal happens. This is where it all occurs. So before too long, I created a brand called Welcome to Humanity. And Welcome to Humanity is my overarching brand. And it says what it means and means what it says. It's like, this is it. It comes with pain, it comes with sorrow, it comes with misery, it comes with struggle, it comes with stress, it comes with beauty, it comes with wonder, it comes with ecstasy, it comes with miracles, it comes with love, it comes with compassion, it comes with confusion, it comes with clean paths, it comes with dirty paths, it comes with gravel roads, it comes with rocks in your face, it comes with everything. And no part of it is inherently better than any other part of it. Some are more comfortable than others, granted. I don't wish rocks in people's face. It's not my goal. But it's no better or worse. It's just a life event that comes with being here for the temporary time that we're here. So when that became clear to me, it became, really obvious that one of the things I could do, especially when I would help people see that maybe there was nothing wrong with them, was to communicate effectively, like to actually get them, to listen, to be with them, to have them feel like they've been heard. Harmonic resonance. And I found that when I did that, people got instantly better. That moment, no side effects, no authorization, no need prescription, no need for doctor, no need for hospital, no need for medication, no need for pre-auth, no need for pharmacy in the morning, no need for refills, no need for any of that. Just connect. Watch what happens. Get heard for the first time in your life, or hear someone for their first time in your life. Actually be with someone, not only in what they say vocally, but in their whole being. There are many ways to communicate that aren't about words and listening. You can use those too. So how about if we just teach people how to communicate? How about if we just show people by example of what communication looks like, both the speaking, the listening, and the nonverbal? So I started spending a lot of time doing that and really looking at the global madness. I looked at global madness and had I was going to be the Anthony Bourdain of psychiatry, go around the world and actually see how psychiatry is dealt with in multiple different arenas. That didn't happen because there was this virus thing that took place in 2020. So that got kiboshed. And then, I started creating some books. I had already created a book or two, Creative 8, Healing Through Creativity and Self-Expression. And then my second book was called Find Your True Voice, again, consistent with the whole idea of getting real with yourself so that what you're presenting to others actually resonates like at the human frequency. So many of us have learned not to be our true self in order to protect the self that we really are. It's like an absurd strategy, but that's what we do. To such a point that some of us actually are saying things that even we don't believe. Dude, that is beyond absurd. That is so preposterous. It's flat out ludicrous. What circumstances have to exist that I say things that I don't even mean? What the hell is that? But that's how we get through life, many of us. So it's a fractured way, and no one even really gets to meet you if you're pretending to be someone that you're not. So we start looking at the real work here, and I start taking stages. I start teaching courses. I start facilitating, being a consultant, being a writer, and, really stepping into this idea of welcome to humanity. And I become the undoctor. A friend of mine gives me the undoctor moniker, which is about undiagnosing, unmedicating, and undoctrinating, meaning keeping people out of the conventional system where they're not going to get the best choice. It's one of the choices. When you're uncomfortable, you can come to a psychiatrist. It's one of your choices. There's a lot of things you could do. You could go to the store. You could go to the next hockey game. You could do whatever you want, but you could also go to the doctor. That's right. No problem. But when we do that, it may not be the best choice. Maybe the whole system is not meant to heal you. Maybe the system is meant to produce a perpetual client, which is what it typically does. They don't even promise. They don't even pretend to be able to cure any mental health condition. There's no cure inside of my field. All we can do is slow down the deterioration. That's it. Maybe halt the deterioration, somehow slow it down, just contain it. So, but what if healing was really a possibility for real? What if no matter how uncomfortable you were, if you were able to connect with another person, that stuff can disappear instantly. And then you can choose whether to go back to believing the junk you were believing or step forward into a world where freedom and peace and possibility exist. I have found some really beautiful things out here in that way. And I really can declare that, although psychiatry remains a possibility for anybody who's not feeling comfortable, the psychiatrist will gladly take you into their office, no problem. And by the way, you will not leave their office without a diagnosis that will stick with you forever, because they can't see you without giving you a diagnosis. It's not even, if they're going to get paid by a third party, they need to give you a diagnosis, and it's not taken lightly. It's in your record for good. So people don't know all the things that are going on in the behind this veil, behind the curtain inside of psychiatry. But I do. I've been there long enough. I see it. It's good. No problem. It's no problem, man. It's just a system. It's just a system. But when we start taking responsibility for realizing that the whole way the system works, it has nothing to do with that big pharma group. It has nothing to do with doctors. It has nothing to do with insurance companies. It has nothing to do with pharmacies. All it has to do with is our convincing ourselves that there's something wrong with us, and we're not getting better, and we're going to someone else who's going to give us toxic stuff to put in our mouth as if it's going to make us better. Dude, that's not going to happen. Now, for the group of people, and there is a group of people, tens of thousands, maybe even 100,000 people in the country or in the world, who really truly believe that their diagnosis is what saved their lives. They couldn't love their doctor more. They love their medicines. They love their treatment plan. They wouldn't trade it for the world. All I have to say to them is, please, more power to you. Please keep doing exactly what you're doing. Because if you've reached a point in any area of your life where you're not even open to consider an upgrade, who am I to argue with that? Like, good for you, man. That's a pinnacle of life. I would hope for that to happen to me in some field in my lifetime, but I don't see it happening anytime soon, because I always know I can learn and improve and maybe even do better than I've done up until now. So, but for that group who's like arguing in their head, like, I don't believe this guy, he's full of junk, he's whatever. That's fine. You don't have to agree with me, and you should just keep doing what I'm not in your way. I'm not in your way. I'm not. You can keep doing that. I don't have a problem. And, I recently stopped doing conventional psychiatry in March. And so now it's all about writing books and creating retreats, and it's all about taking stages. It's all about creating courses. And that's what I'm doing with my time, more one-to-many. But I knew this will say one more thing, which you'll appreciate, which is, you remember those 3 weeks, and then the second 3 weeks, then the third 3 weeks. For 46 years, Anthony, I've been living into the next 3 weeks. Maybe I'll quit in 3 weeks has been with me for 46 solid years. It's a series of 3-week chunks. I mean it. And now I'm finally released.
Wow.
So here we go.
And totally unleashed. It was great introduction. I really appreciate you bringing the listeners up to speed with your story, and it's really empowering story in terms of that constant curiosity you've had and to understand the universe and to seek universal truths. I was intrigued as to, you came across obviously that one around connection, which is fundamental, and you're great at that through communicating. What was some other universal truths that you discovered?
That we all think there's something wrong with us.
Okay.
It might even be the number one sign of being normal, which we don't have a definition of, is that you're functioning and you think there's something wrong with you.
Right.
That's
so
like 8 billion deep.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay. And so you wrote the book about finding, I don't think it was called Finding Yourself.
Find your true voice. Find your true voice.
Find your true voice, right? So, and you discovered yours, I guess, through hindsight, looking back, that you were always born to be a communicator and healer, and you followed that journey. But that was very much, I guess, at what point did you know that was your calling, or
it's not my calling? It's not my calling. That someone on a podcast just yesterday asked me a similar question. So I just recently metabolized this question. It's not my calling. It's my way of being. It's not like a moment happened where all of a sudden I realized communication is more important than I thought it was. That didn't happen. It wasn't like a break. I wasn't in an old system and then realized about communication and then turned into communication. It's just a way of being. I really literally don't remember when I didn't think that was the number one thing to go after. I literally don't. And we're talking from the first second where I hit the punch card leaving my mom. That was it. I was like, okay, I'm here to be a healer. Let's go. Where's my next assignment? So I've known it the whole time, and I say I've known it. I have been one who truly believes that communication is the heart of all healing, of all conditions of all type, for a really long time. And the more I learn about communication, the more I realize that without why is the world in such a hellish place? Because we're not communicating. Because we're
And
cutting people out who disagree with us.
it's communicating with the intent to connect. Is that an important?
No, I think, and not so much, again, I don't know that the end stage is to connect. I think communication is done for the intent of communication, really. I think our job, I don't know that, I mean, it is a frequent outcome, a secondary outcome is that connection takes place when you're communicating. Like if I like right, how would you measure whether or not me or and you are connected? You would only measure that if you felt like I was listening to you, being with you, caring about you, speaking my truth. Then you would say, yes, I connected very well to Dr. Fred. So it's not about creating that. It's just a natural offshoot when one communicates with to another that connection takes place.
And that effective communication, you sort of stepped the, I guess, listener through, in terms of making sure that you're understanding the other person and showing them that you understand. And when they feel understood, they feel heard, which means they feel that in a sense you must be like important, like in some ways you got, it's like respect, right, for one another. And then that, as an offshoot of that, you feel more connected with them. Is there anything else around this communication piece that you think that we've got horribly wrong or we just don't do in our interactions?
Yeah, I think there's a lot. I mean, it's hard to communicate. We're afraid of people, and we've just got more afraid of people 6 years ago. And we're afraid to speak our truth. We're afraid that we'll be thrown off the island, that we'll be dismissed, that we'll be disenfranchised, that we'll be, disregarded. And so we don't communicate effectively that which is on our mind. We're actually start pretending to be someone that we're not in order to protect that person. And without that, without being able to find yourself, and sometimes we have to do some certain exercises or tools to give us a chance of finding ourselves because the world is glad to drag us down the road, glad to have us be a victim of its circumstances. But if we're going to actually find ourselves, get connected to our truest core self, then when we're communicating with each other and we're fearless or become a little bit more courageous about actually sharing that which we think about things or that which we want other people to hear. Recording stopped.
Must have been another recording. You're still on. You're still live.
Yeah, I'm still
Yeah.
live. That's my Zoom. That's the Zoom I was on for a retreat earlier. Okay, good. No problem. Yeah. Okay. So let's see, where was I? Sorry.
Around that discovery of voice, and it's so people are too scared to voice their
Yeah.
opinion they might offend someone or
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
insult
People are
them. Yeah,
very,
yeah,
very
yeah,
afraid of that four-letter word starting with F, for sure. Four-letter
yeah.
word starting with F. They get really messed up about that word, and then we give up on communication. We don't talk when we should. We do talk when we shouldn't. We say things that we don't mean in order to stay in a crowd and not be thrown off the island. And yeah, so that's some things that get in the way of communication. We have judgment and evaluation and assessment of other people, whether or not they're worth talking to. I don't need to hear this stuff anymore. We disregard people right then. Or someone's on the other side of an aisle on a particular divisive issue. We like, yeah, I really like that guy until he told me that what his thoughts were about global warming or COVID or racism or homelessness or whatever. And then when he said that, I disrespect him now for the rest of my life. So
So we
you can lose a friend with one statement.
true, and so we fear disconnection, but the antidote to that is in order to connect, we need to communicate and communicate truthfully and with being able to feel safe expressing our voice. But we're, we're, we're fearing that if we express our voice, we might disconnect with them. And so it's this vicious cycle that we're in at the moment. And where, as you're saying, we aren't communicating because we fear that we'll say something and disconnect with them and feel like we're being isolated, and that's our worst fear. And this all comes from, I guess, the COVID situation of being isolated. So what's our way out of this? I know you've got this Welcome to Humanity, the book. How do we get out of this? How
Yeah,
do we
the
break?
best
Yep.
look, the best way to get out of it is from within. So, look, here's what, be the change you want in the world, like, we've heard that. And when we meditate, when we stop and pause, when we're grateful, when we watch what we put into our mouth, we put only high quality foods and lots of water into our mouth, when we avoid things that are bad for us, and that can be food, that can be people, that can be certain shows, that can be certain things we listen to. When we avoid the toxic stuff in the world, or when we do get toxic, that we detoxify ourselves quickly, that we become creative, art, music, dancing, singing, drama, cooking, writing, gardening. That's in my first book. That's a Creative 8. Or when we actually do some journaling, or when we do some reading of real books, when we do some pampering of ourselves, when we take nature walks, when we deal with our pets, when we're spiritual, when we're of service. All of those things give us a greater sense and a greater space of being ourselves, movement. And when we're more naturally ourselves, then we resonate at that certain human frequency. And then let's say that frequency is 420. Let's just call it 420 megs. Well, it isn't, by the way. I should find out what it is. But if it was, we open ourselves up to be able to connect to other whole human beings. And most of us walking on the planet, I'm still willing to believe, are human. I mean, we're getting other stories quickly these days, but, there's reptiles and aliens and all that yada stuff. And maybe there really are reptiles and aliens, but still, I'm going to go with most of us are human. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. But I think most of us are human. And therefore, if we're going to be human, resonating at that universal frequency becomes the goal if we're going to create the curative situation that comes from true and honest, authentic connection.
And what, and the essence of that is slowing. Like the frequency that we're operating at today is busyness, right? It's hecticness. It's constantly moving and not slowing down and thinking we need to be more and more productive. And that state is very much that sympathetic dominant state, which is that fight or flight. And I figure where you're coming from is if we remove ourselves or just slow ourselves down, we are actually at a state that we can like communicate more effectively, communicate with less fear, and communicate deeper, and I guess forge better understanding of one another, more
Yeah.
respect for one another.
Yeah.
And that's where we have this harmonics that you're referring to.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. And so obviously you've got plenty of books that go into this in detail. What, you've written 3 or 4 books?
My third book is the one that's coming out in 6 weeks. That's called Welcome to Humanity, a psychiatrist's case against the mental health system. I'm super excited about that book. It was too fun to write, full of memoirs from that very day when I was, when I punched the trump card, the trump card, or punched the time card on March 1st, 1958. That's what I was there to do. From that forward, there's been a lot of cool stories. When you're an adventurer, you learn a lot of things out there. It's not all unicorns and balloons. It's, there's some things that happen, and some of the dark, dirty stuff is in that book too. And I can really see how I got to be exactly who I am. So all the podcasts that I've done, I don't know, 300 plus podcasts as a guest, really helped me get to this memoir, because nearly every podcast host, a good 90% of podcast hosts, asked me to tell them my story. So I've already done this 300 times. And so by the time it came time to dictate my memoirs into Claude, it was a piece of cake.
Absolutely. I really appreciate you putting aside your time and sharing your story, your experience, your wisdom, and how you help people today. How can the listeners reach out and connect with you've got retreats coming up, you've got your book. Where can they go to find and
Yeah,
connect with
so the
you?
retreat, we'll talk about that first. That's at welcometohumanityretreat.com. We just had a meeting of our first cohort of people who are deeply interested in retreat. It just finished in the last hour. And that was the Zoom call that ended. And that was, and there was 24 people there and, on a webinar like setting. And it's like, wow. And 24 beauties, Anthony. I'm not talking about, these are people who showed up because they wanted to be there and wanted to communicate, wanted to be taken care of. The retreat's about caring for people who care for others, actually creating a space where people can come and give and give and give. We want people not to come to take, but to come to give. Bring your very best, because you realize when you're with a group of 24 people and your whole goal and all of their goals is to give, then when you're not giving, 23 people are giving to you. So it's a pretty cool math. It's a pretty cool math. If you stop worrying about taking and just worry about giving, then it all becomes cumulative. We're creating that space, and I'm very excited. Welcome to humanityretreat.com. Then I have my book. It doesn't have an ISBN. It has an ISBN, but it doesn't have a reference quite yet because it's still in final proofing. The Welcome to Humanity, a psychiatrist case against the mental health system, that's coming out probably, I think due date is July 1st. It may get pushed back to July 15th or August 1st, but that's fun. And then there's drfred360.com, drfred360.com, my slick website. You'll all love it. It's got everything I've ever done in there, podcasts and freebies and articles and award-winning articles and my books but videos, all this cool stuff in there. Then the mothership is called welcometohumanity.net. Back in the day, that's kind of an older style website. And then I troll around on social media too much. I spend embarrassing amount of time scrolling through Facebook, which I think deserves about 1 minute a day. And instead I do at least probably 120 times that every day. Which I have better things to do with my life than do that, but it's addicting. And then LinkedIn is my favorite social media. So
Fantastic. Well, for the listeners, I'll include those links in the show notes so you can go to the appropriate link. And I just really wanted to thank you again, Dr. Fred, for putting aside your time, given that you're very busy roaming, speaking, communicating, being on stages, writing books, and running retreats. So, really appreciate you coming in
sure.
and enlightening the listeners.
Thank you. My pleasure. Very cool.
You're welcome. And thank you, listeners, for tuning in to another insightful episode of the Joyful Mate podcast. Please share it with others that you believe that could benefit from Dr. Fred's wisdom on mental health, and particularly that communication piece and that connecting piece, which is so vital for good mental health. So please share it with others. And until next time, continue to experience more joy, fulfillment, and happiness.
Thank you.